The following podcast is run by a couple of former wheel turners and one pit guy. It's meant for entertainment, not so much information, but sometimes there's some good information. The opinions expressed are just, these are the morons on the show. Not necessarily right, not necessarily wrong, not the views of any of the sponsors or anything like that. So, these guys, they're going to be talking, they might swear here and there, so if that offends you, either grow up or get a little permission from mom and dad.
All right, race fans, we're back. Absolute mayhem in the dirt late model world. We'll get to that in a little bit, but my goodness, it's been crazy. She's been a crazy last week or so here. A lot of stuff going on, including some pretty good racing. But episode number 216 in the books here. I'm Ryan Aho. We got the Wisconsin wearing into the dance, kind of momentum for your basketball team there, the one and only Bert Lehman. And we got Coach Kraus wearing formal wear tonight on the shirt, sporting the Billiam garb there. So how you guys doing?
Doing good. Busy weekend, and we don't want to hear this, but the forecast is a major snowstorm is coming.
You're cutting out really bad. I don't know why you got to be. This is a kid-friendly show. You don't need to be swearing. We don't believe in that shit on here. All right, so just stop it with the snow. Yeah, I don't think it's going to amount to much. We got basically getting a little moisture in the ground, making life easier for the track prep crews, is what you're saying, right? So they don't have to battle dust. Speaking of dust, Kraus, you sent me that link. Where was that, Williams Grove, where it was like an absolute massacre of a dust storm? I don't remember who it was. Somebody spun out there, and you couldn't really tell. They gave everybody their spot back. It's kind of the blend rule deal. But, wow, if our drivers, right, including us, complain about dust, they might want to look at that one. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I think it was one of the Ramers spun out. I don't know. I was just searching Facebook and saw the post, and I let it play a little bit. That was unsafe. They shouldn't even been out there. It was that unsafe. The car shouldn't have been on. I mean, those guys were stopped. Like I said, and of course, everybody was all mad that everybody got their spot back. Well, there's no chance anybody saw what happened. So, yeah, like I said, when you scroll through Facebook, it's all true. Everything on Facebook is true. Then B, you never know what you're going to find. So, no, I've just been I've been kind of enjoying some time off. I got called into work last week. I was down in St. Cloud coaching, so I had to go do a little of that. But now I had a board meeting last night at Viking Speedway, get some stuff punched away there. And like I said, now I saw a chart today, Alexander, Minnesota, like 24 inches of snow. I'm like, we'll probably hopefully just get a dusting.
Yeah, I hope they're going off my ruler, right? Like 10 inches, right? Which, yeah, we don't need to go there. So this episode, guys, brought to you by Impact Health Sharing. So if you're self-employed, if you have a business and you got to cover employees, you got a big family, if you're paying way too much for healthcare and you're just flat out sick of it and basically don't go to the doctor, you're pretty healthy, and it's like, why am I wasting all this money? I might have a good solution for you. Been able to help a lot of people kind of all over the country as well reduce what they're spending on health insurance costs. I have a product called Impact Health Sharing. Shoot me a message, shoot me a text, give me a call, whatever you want to do. I can get you a quick quote. I can get you the info you need. If it's something that can help you out, I'd be glad to do that. So Impact Health Sharing, and my number is 218-969-1380. So, guys, let's just roll right into the good stuff here, right? The top moments and stories of the week. Originally, kind of wanted to go top moments here. Sometimes, though, the storylines far outweigh the moments in racing. So, kind of tying that together. And I want to give a shout-out to one of our long-standing sponsors, good friend of the show, Brad Parson Soil and Egg Solutions. And I know Bert's talking shit about the weather and that kind of stuff. We disregard that. We just ignore that. Planting season is coming. If you farm, if you're in western Minnesota, North and South Dakota, get a hold of Brad at Brad Parsons Soil and Egg Solutions. his number 320-219-3542, and let him inform you on what the products that he has that you can mix right with your current spray packages that'll result you in better yields and more profitability. So thanks, Brad Parsons Soil and Ag Solutions, for your continued support of the One to Go show here. So guys, number five. So Coach, let's start with you. Number 5, late model racing. Let's go to you.
Yeah, the 48th annual Spring 50 at Florence Speedway, and ended up being a few decent cars showed up there. I think we all knew that RTJ was going to be there. I think everybody kind of said, hey, RTJ is going to kind of be the guy to beat. And obviously he was. Now, we're going to have another discussion later on this deal about my bold prediction, because he got robbed. I don't know did you look at his qualifying time?
I think we'll just leave that for later in the show. Now you're mixing segments here, Coach.
I'm not mixing segments. I'm just putting in my piece because you'll forget about me when we get there. So
are we gonna have to listen to this the entire show? I don't know what we're doing here, right? Let's stick on topic.
So yeah, it was. Like I said, I know I had a bold prediction, so I went and looked at the results. I'm like, RTJ's got to be tied for the fastest time, and like I said, who knows what the tiebreaker is? Mark Richards probably called in and said, that he's got to put him second or something. So who knows? But then obviously he won his heat, and then he won his feature. And Mike Marlar, who he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. I think here he wants to get in that Final Four, and obviously big shakeup in that world. So big thing is RTJ holding his ground, showing up there a non-Lucas race, and getting a W.
Speed weeks are over. He's back. RTJ. He knows how to win. Number 4, Hot Sauce is red hot. Hot Sauce, Giovanni Scelzi. What a weekend, guys. So they had a pair of shows down at the Cotton Bowl Speedway in Texas for the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars. And nobody had a better weekend than him. Night number 1, guys, when luck is on your side, He literally was running somewhere up in the top 5, clipped the wall in the back straightaway, rolled the wall all the way down back straightaway, rolled the wall, came back on the track, yellow come out, actually didn't lose any spots because the yellow saved him. But Coach, I mean, when you ride the wall, right, there's like a tale of two stories here, right? When the luck is on your side, you just kind of fall back off the wall, you go onto a podium finish, you get a third. When luck's not going your way, you clip the wall, you rip the right front tire off, you cartwheel down the back straightaway. How much luck goes into winning these championships?
Well, you have to have. You're going to have to when you go through those nights like that. You're going to have some luck on your side. And who knows? I think those sprint cars could be different. Maybe they're made to ride the wall like that. You put a late model or a super stock or a street stock or anything like that, you're done. You're sitting on the trailer. So crazy stuff like that. And like I said, it's the number one reason why when a red flag comes out, everybody's on their edge of their seat watching the sprint cars, because they're overhauling those cars and they're getting everybody back out there. A lot of these late model guys pull in, they're done. You know what? I'm going to be done with it. These sprint car guys race. They're in the pits changing wings. They're changing everything. So fortunately enough, he didn't have anything go wrong and ended up obviously having a really good night for him.
Yeah, you end up on the podium, and then, if you want to win a championship, you got to be good and lucky. And he showed on night number 2 that he was good, parked it in victory lane, and kind of a surprise. I mean, he's a talented race car driver, but a surprise to me, Giovanni Scelzi right now, the point leader with the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars. So, number 3, let's stick with sprint cars here, and I'm going to call this the hero to zero moment of the week. I mean, you want to talk about going from hero to zero in a blink of an eye? Silver Dollar Speedway down in California, they had the NARC 410 sprint cars down there. Ryan Robinson, 18th to 1st, just cruise to the lead, right? Takes a white flag, right? You come down into 1 and 2. How many times you see this, Bert? You got a pretty big lead on second. You come out of turn 2. People start getting out of the crowd. They're like, shit, this deal's over, right? Yeah, not so fast. Middle of the back straightaway on the last lap all by himself, flipped it, went cartwheeling all the way down the back straightaway. So not only did he just kind of slip off the end and give one away, he did it in dramatic fashion, and Cole Macedo went on the win. But, man, Have you, I mean, when you think about moments, and we talked about this a few different times, you know, hey, shit like that's going to happen. It's racing, right? You're racing hard. I look back at my race pass stats. Guy doesn't win a lot, right? 1 or 2 wins a year. He's kind of that guy. I mean, how often do we see this? And do you have a moment that comes to mind like that was a more spectacular giving one away than that?
Nothing comes to mind right now, but you know, it's I mean, the goal of racing is to win. So I mean, when you're leading and it's in the bag and you don't win, it's kind of extra heartbreaking for yourself to not get the victory in those instances. Those sting, and they tend to linger in the memory longer than some of the other non-wins.
Coach, let me ask you this. What stings worse? Giving one away, right? Giving one away. I mean, I'm talking like just jump the cushion, like you talked about in Wilmer, just kind of overshot it, or destroying a race car in the process.
I think you got to combine that with both. You know, he destroyed his car, guys. I mean, destroyed that thing. And he blew by those guys like they were parked. My interesting question is did he have a spotter? You know what I mean? Because once he got the lead, who knows, maybe he's over in 3 and 4. I don't know when he got the lead. Maybe he didn't pick him up, but it was, like I said, the track had some character and he was bonsaiing through it. Be interesting to see if he had a spotter to really see if, you know, slow down a little bit, because he drifted off and destroyed that thing. So I've came close to destroying race cars coming to the checkered flag. I've had incidents with Ross Dixon one night. It took two wreckers to get his car into the pits, and I drove mine in safely. I finished one night leading, spun out side by side, and I never crossed the finish line. I was literally 2 feet from crossing the finish line. I ended up getting last. So I think we've all been there and done that. And like you said, Ryan, you know, new guy doesn't win much. He was going for broke. He wasn't lifting, and it bit him. So hopefully he's going to learn from that and hopefully keep putting on a show and get a couple wins under his belt.
Yeah, he had a really good hot rod there. I mean, it was exciting. I can tell you right now that if Changa or Blair would have been in the house giving them signals, they would have been wide signals, and maybe that doesn't happen. So all you late model guys, get rid of stick signals, probably would have saved this guy a race car, right? Although he is a sprint car guy, so they don't really pay attention too much anyway. So number 2, the drive of the week. Bert, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, in the Comp Cam Super Dirt Series at Springfield Raceway in Missouri, Clayton Stuckey started 19th and drove himself to a victory, and it wasn't even close. I mean, once he got to the front, he pulled away, and that was actually a pretty cool track to watch a race on. I mean, they were racing all over that track, and I can't remember who was leading with, like, I think there's only 5 laps to go, and he got too high in 3 and 4. And the way that track is configured, there's no guardrail or anything. It's one of those where if you get it too high, you start going off the track, and he spun out in front of the entire field. And but once they restarted the race, Stuckey pulled out and won easily.
Yeah, it's one of those things too. So, Coach, I don't think you watched this one. Maybe you did, but everybody was kind of carving the high side, right? They're just railing the top, and Stuckey was, I mean, I'll call it Jeffrey Massengilling it, because Massengill is kind of the guy in our area that he'll put it on the bottom, and he's like right around the tires, and that's exactly what he did. It looked like he was going 30 miles an hour. But he was making up ground, and he was really good on the bottom. So great run for Clayton Stuckey.
It kind of reminded me of when Mars won that race over Hannestad, when Mars was driving in the brown at Cedar Lake Speedway. What was it, 3 years ago?
Yeah, the 10,000 when they're right on in Jimmy Mars fashion. I mean, I think back to old school Cedar Lake. It's Jimmy Mars toting the left front tire right on the bottom, around the over the top of them tires. And he wasn't toting the tire like that, but he was on the bottom like that. So the top story of the week, and I got to be honest, I don't think it's even close, right? The top story of the week brought to you by our friends over at Fastlane Motorsports and Powder Coating in Ashland, Wisconsin. Chris is the number one sponsor of many sponsors of the number one series in all of Wissota racing. That's the Northland Superstock Series. Big stuff planned for that. Check that out on Facebook. But Fastlane Motorsports and Powder Coating, they build the Galloper chassis. They service a lot of racetracks. They do custom fabricating. I mean, they do it all over there. A great group of guys over in Ashland, Wisconsin. So, number one story of the week, guys. Rocket One with a new pilot. So, I got some notes here, right? But who wants to kind of start, right? So last week, I'll just segue it with this. Amidst all the stuff, and I don't remember if we covered it in the show or not, because I feel like the tire stuff, did we even talk about it in the show? Rocket One and Hudson O'Neal parting ways. Okay, they parted ways. I don't think we hit on that. I think that happened after we did.
I don't think so, because it was just kind of rumors on Facebook at the time. There was nothing confirmed, and as everything played out on Facebook, there were all sorts of stories as to what was going on and why it was happening. And I wouldn't even repeat most of them, because it's not fair to Huddy and all the other people involved. But when there's that many rumors flying, there's a saying, wherever there's smoke, there's usually fire, and there's definitely fire.
Yeah, there's fire for sure. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but anyway, so Hudson O'Neal right now, kind of the odd man out, right? He left fight. Well, however, they parted ways, right? He's out of the situation, and he is going to be in a car this weekend at Atomic and at Brownstown. So he does have a car. He's only 5 points, guys, out of first in the Lucas Oil Dirt Late Model Series point standings. Of course, the final four is what goes into the chase at the end. So he's in good position right now. So he has a car, and then there's literally like a month off, right? There's basically a month off before the next Lucas race. So he has some time to kind of figure out exactly what he's going to do moving forward. And then an interesting move, and I got a little bit on this. I heard some little tidbits of behind the scenes, but Tim McCready leaving Taylor Motorsports, and he's going to be driving the Rocket One for the duration of the 2024 season. So, Bert, I'll let you start. When all this went down to now, because there's been a lot of stuff on Facebook, a lot of stuff, based on what what are some thoughts that come to mind as far as this goes?
Well, I mean, everybody considers Rocket One to be the premier late model program out there. It's a dream job to be the driver of the house car. But now you look at it, in the last 2 years, you've had two young drivers who have won championships with that team who have left that team. Like I said, I don't know ultimately why things went down the way they did, but when you have two young drivers like that leaving a team, that makes you question some things.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because based on conversations I've had and people in the know, it is the number one, and the number one job as far as the driver goes, not just in dirt late model racing, but arguably in all of dirt racing, period. The best team, the best backing, that sounds like they got a pretty high pay rate as far as percentage for the drivers. So it's interesting, even going back to Brandon Shepherd, it's interesting that a guy in his position would just be like, no, looking for a change.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that change ain't going to pay what he was getting paid, right? It don't matter how much he's going to win. So sometimes money's not the motivating factor. Coach Kraus.
Yeah, I think the big thing is how do you lose a guy like Brandon Shepherd and Hudson O'Neal back to back? And I think we all know why. It's no one can work with Mark Richards. It's just the facts of the fact. That's what we've been hearing. Nobody can work with the guy. I mean, Brandon Shepherd not only left Rocket, he had 3 Rockets, brand new ones, he sold them, got rid of them, and bought all Longhorns. That's how much he disliked Rocket Chassis. And he's won championships, probably the fastest guy ever. And it sounds like Huddy's been having some issues and going through some stuff with Richards. So that stuff, it is what it is. My big thing is this is a no-brainer for Tim McCready because he's a sleeping giant, if you ask me. He lost a house car. Who knows how? I'm sure he's pretty well funded, but he's not going to be as well funded as he is with the house car and with Paler. He's sitting there going, I've been struggling. I get to hop in the hottest ride and probably one of the fastest rides out there right now. So super interesting to see T-Mac hop in that thing. And it's a instant game changer. You throw T-Mac in that one car now. It's going to take some adjustment, but he's been there. He's done that. Sounds like he's worked with them before at some point in his career. I read a little article, something said about reunited. I didn't know anything about that, but who knows? But that was my big take from it was Tim McCready going, yeah, this is a no-brainer for me. I'm getting my career back on track. I want to be on top of the world where he was there for a few years. And that was my big take from it was T-Mac getting in the one car.
So did either of you guys watch the interview that Bubba the Love Sponge did with Turbo?
No.
Okay, I'll send a friend of our show, Brent, sent that to me. Thank you, Brent, for that. So while I was driving to get to where we could actually do the show, I actually listened to that and pretty good interview because they touched on it a little bit. You know, as far as Paler Motorsports, they kind of been grooming, right? Carson Ferguson, he's going to be in that ride, kind of on the national scene. But if you think about it, I can kind of relate to Mark Richards, right? I can. My pit guys would definitely agree. I was basically a hard ass. We didn't party at the track. We didn't want to screw around. We were there to win. That's what we did, right? Now, it's kind of the same thing. He's an old school guy. I mean, I talked to some different people, and they said, this guy here, they weren't out hanging around after the races, partying. Rocket One team they're a well-oiled machine. They're there to win races and win championships. And I'm not saying Huddy's a big partier or whatever. I don't know that. But they do things different, right? Coach, you can relate to this. So you think back like an old school guy versus new school. I mean, I remember when I was racing, it was pretty tough to find pit guys once in a while. And I had a pretty darn good pit guy that, well, he basically quit because we're working on the car and we're at the racetrack and he's sitting there texting the chick up in the grandstands and he forgets to put a nut on the trailing arm. And next thing you know, oh man, I'm sorry, I forgot to do that. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? We're here trying to win. Like, you could get me killed. Like, what are you doing? I just chewed his ass and he's like, fuck it, I've had enough, right? I'm out. Well, kind of the same thing here with Huddy. And I'm not saying he screws around. I have no idea what goes on, behind closed doors. But Mark Richards has a certain standard. And when you're that kind of like that obsessed personality, right? Like a Tom Brady in football, he was obsessed, right? I mean, how many people are going to tell their wife at the time, you got to go to your mom's for 2 weeks. I got a Super Bowl to get ready for. I mean, that level of obsessed, that's Mark Richards. Everybody that's been in Rocket One has won races. Everybody. Why? He demands excellence. Well, this younger generation, they view the way they do things as like, oh man, he's a hard ass, he's mean, he's a bully. Coach, I want you to talk about how you've seen that personally in coaching, right? You've been coaching for a number of years. How much different is this younger generation with like Huddy, that age group, compared to our generation as far as how you can work with them?
Yeah, it's 100% completely different. And I've seen it over the years. Story guy to tell you, do you guys know who Ken Hitchcock is? The legendary Stanley Cup winning NHL coach. I got into watching some videos and stuff on coaches, and he basically came out and said, I was forced to change. He said, the old school method don't work anymore. He said, I got Twitter, I got Instagram, I got Snapchat, Facebook. I put that all on my phone because that's what these kids are doing. I needed to learn what these kids were doing. He adapted, and he still had a job. I think one of the reasons why Belichick's not successful right now is he's not doing that. This old school stuff, there's nobody around anymore. You look at all the young head coaches in the NFL. Sean McVay's winning Super Bowls. Kevin O'Connell. They're all young guys. They've all adapted. They all have social media. They all know how these kids function. So you have to adapt to these kids. And the saying, and it's hard to really coach as a team. You almost have to coach individually because every kid's different. You can't say, hey guys, go out and run through that tree. I'll go jump off a bridge. No, everybody's different. This day and age, half of them won't do it. Back in the day, we growing up, Ryan, if coach said that, all 20 or 30 of us were running until we ran into a wall or whatever we did. So it's a big thing, and you have to adapt and you have to adjust. And like I said, I've learned that just talking to multiple coaches, Division I coaches, NHL coaches. I'm always trying to expand myself as a coach. And I tell you what, it's a real thing right now, and you have to adapt to these young kids. Like I said, you don't have to give them, give them, what do they say? You give them a foot and they're taking 100 feet. But it's an issue right now, and it's something you have to adapt to, and you have to be willing to change and be willing to adapt, to coach or teach or to be an owner or be a boss.
So would you say the whole Herb Brooks again? That wouldn't fly today. You're saying like the whole team would quit and be like, go F yourself, right? That's kind of how that would work. And that's why T-Mac might be a good fit, because T-Mac he's an old school guy. I mean, you listen to his interviews. He's to the point. He likes to have fun, but he's serious. He wants to win, right? He's focused, and he's maybe can relate a little bit better with Mark Richards. And you hit it on the head. Maybe that's why Belichick's not in it. It doesn't make Mark Richards a bad car owner by any means, but I'll be honest with you, holy shit, I would have a hard time dealing with these 20-year-olds, 23-year-olds. I mean, I can imagine he wants to bounce their heads off the wall half the time, because he's like, these freaking kids don't pay, they don't listen, they don't focus. I mean, they're on their phone all the time, girlfriends in there in the shop and all this stuff. It's definitely a different, and when Huddy mentioned on Facebook, it's just kind of a different philosophy. Probably had a lot to do with it right there, as far as that is a different philosophy. Where will Huddy end up? Any predictions? According to Turbo, and he didn't really get into too much detail. He's kind of hoping. Bubba the Love Sponge was kind of hoping he was going to be a little looser, but he didn't really divulge too much. But he does not think that Huddy's going to be in a Rocket this weekend. So Boom Briggs is in Rockets, right? So there was a little speculation that he was going to be in Boom's car this weekend. And according to Turbo, he doesn't think he's going to be in he does not think he's going to be in a Rocket this week. He did not say if it's a Longhorn or what, but it sounds like it's going to be a whole chassis switch and everything. And then I have no idea moving forward. So any predictions, maybe not on this weekend because that's short term. Any predictions long term where he might end up? Or
I don't have any predictions. I mean,
I'll save mine for the end of the show then, for the bold predictions.
Okay. All right.
All right. So I got a little trivia here from our friend of the show, JR, good buddy of mine. There was a Wissota driver that actually raced Rocket 1. Do either one of you know which driver actually raced Rocket 1 for Mark Richards?
Boy, my only guess would be Rick Auckland. Is that who it is?
That is who it is. You got it on the first guess. I sucked at that. I guess Pat. No, I'm like, I have no idea. I had no clue. Yeah, Rick Auckland ran Rocket 1. I don't know if it was a whole season or just a handful of shows. I'm not sure. But yeah, he ran it. Interestingly enough. So yeah, anyway, long story short, Huddy, Rocket 1, no longer married. They parted ways, and we're gonna have some news here, I guess, over the next few days as far as where they're going and what's going on. So, little closing thoughts, guys, on this past week's events. Just a little rapid fire word association. I'll name the event. You just name the first thing or two quickly that comes to mind. But a shout out here. Kind of one of the other chassis builders here in the Northland, Coach Kraus. Who do we want to give a shout out here to?
Yeah, absolutely. Flat Out Performance and Turbine Chassis. Make sure you got any needs over here in central Minnesota area. They're in Hancock, Minnesota. Get a hold of Jeff Flatten. Ryan Flatten's in the Turbine House Car Modified again this year. And like I said, I got a turbine super stock sitting in my garage and won a lot of races, a lot of championships and those things. So get a hold of Jeff Flatten over at Flat Out Performance and Turbine Chassis.
Absolutely. So Spring 50 at Florence. What comes to mind quickly, Bert?
Kind of a hum race. Wasn't too exciting. The race was run during daylight, so the track wasn't real racy. Let's put it that way.
Coach?
Easy money for RTJ is basically what that race was.
Two things, needs water. Florence, evening race, when it's water, they got a cushion. That place is phenomenal. Day racing, not so much. Tyler Carpenter, Robbie Hensley. Little drama in the heat races, right? Turbo said, I know one thing about going to Florence. You don't fuck with the Hensleys over there. You just don't do it, right? Because I don't know if you've seen a picture of Robbie Hensley. He is a big man. Big man. I bet he's got to be 6'4", 6'5", 300. I mean, he's a mountain of a man, and we know that Tyler Carpenter is not. And they had a little, let's just say they were trading paint a little bit. I kind of viewed it as Hensley screwed up and slid up, and Carpenter kind of used him a little bit to get by, and Hensley had none of that getting into the corner, just flat out yard sale him. And I promise you this, Tyler Carpenter did not go down to his pit and try to start a fight because he would have died. So congratulations on Tyler Carpenter on not dying. Okay, Bama Bash, Talladega, Hunt the Front, Dirt Late Model Series. Bert?
Did you see the Ashton Winger rollover?
I did. Talk about it.
Well, that was during qualifying, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah. He just got too high in 1 and 2, and he just cartwheeled then after that. I mean, he went over 3-4 times, and it was a pretty nasty one.
Yeah, in time trials, and it looked to me like he just kind of hit a little bit of a hole getting into the corner, and it upset the car, and it shoved him up over the top, and he yard sailed. Coach Kraus, Talladega.
Didn't watch it. Well, I watched some of it, but was busy. Didn't really get a chance to see. Kind of with all the shakeup, all the stuff going on, I didn't really get a chance. But another sleeping giant, Brandon Overton. Who knows? Is he going to get her going and get back to where he was the 3-4 years ago already now? He was the fastest late model in the country. So good to see Overton get a win, and we need another driver up in that top echelon messing with RTJ and Pierce, and now messing with Tim McCready.
And he held off a local down there, Corey Hedgecock. So Overton won, but Corey Hedgecock in them BMF chassis 9th to 2nd. He's pretty darn quick there. And then the reigning champ of the series, Josh Putnam, he got 4th. Chris Ferguson got 3rd. Scott Bloomquist in the house. And he announced that he's going to run the entire Hunt the Front series. So that'll be interesting to see. We'll got a fan question relating to Bloomer. We'll touch on that in just a minute. World of Outlaw Sprint Cars at Cotton Bowl. Bert.
What happened to David Gravel? He just did not find. He was involved in an accident in one of the races. Coach Kraus was talking about this earlier when the sprint cars are in an accident, they go into the pits and they change everything. And yeah, he was in a wreck in one of the races, and they changed the front wing, the top wing, and they did some other things. But he got back out there in time to continue on. But I believe he was in the points lead entering the weekend, but he is no longer in the points lead.
No, incidentally, him and Schatz were 1-2 in the points, and they both got caught up in an incident. Neither one of them
same wreck, yeah.
In the same wreck. That was Friday night, and both of them got back out, but they didn't really get up, too far up in the field. Schatz did get 3rd night 2. Gravel did get 5th on night 2, so they had a pretty decent rebound. But yeah, that wreck kind of ruined their weekend, so to speak. Coach Kraus.
Sorry, Brett Marks, that was a heck of a run on Friday night, and kind of nice and slow, eased his way through there, and And all of a sudden, boom, he's sitting in victory lane. So another guy in, different track conditions. So he was kind of picking away at everybody on the bottom, and a lot of movers and shakers in that race. A lot of guys coming from 17th, 16th, getting up to the front. There was obviously some passing going on, and the World Outlaw Sprint Cars always put on a good show. And again, the parity there with both nights too, kind of almost different. Other than obviously Selzy, but a lot of different guys running up front, and a lot of different movers and shakers all weekend.
Yeah, Brent Marks single-handedly screwed up Good Jeff's prediction here. We'll talk about that, but he had the best weekend. He got a first and a second, and Carson Macedo looked like he was going to be the guy to beat night one. He jumped out to the early lead, and here comes Brent Marks, just was better at the end of the race. But then night number two, Carson Macedo, you want to talk about Air Force Ashton Winger rolling in time trials? Macedo did the same thing. He took the green flag, went down the front straightaway, gets into turn number one, the left rear axle broke off, and he went sailing and ended up upside down in time trials because the rear end housing essentially fell apart on him. So not a good night for Macedo there. But the high limit guy with the best average finish, that's Brent Marks gonna, I believe, follow the high limit series. Low car counts, guys, under 24 both nights. That's 4 nights in a row. And they were really low at Volusia, but under 24. And it's weird, right? I kind of figured there's no high limit stuff going on. I'm like, where was Brad Sweet? He wasn't even racing, right? Where was Rico? So were you guys surprised that they don't have that deal like the World of Outlaws has, where they can only race so many shows? They don't have that. Were you surprised to not see Rico and Kyle Larson at these events?
Well, the event was in Texas, so I mean, maybe those drivers just don't want to travel all the way to Texas. I'm not sure where
from California.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I don't have a good answer then.
Right? Yeah, I was saying that's probably one of the closer places for them to go compared to anywhere else. So, Coach, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's not their series. They don't get their way and get to do what they want. So of course they're not gonna follow them. So, and to tell you what, 24 to 25 cars on basically a weekly World Outlaw show, it's just perfect. You know what I mean? You start getting more and more. You have too many races, too many laps. Boom, boom, boom. Let's get to the show. Keep the fans happy. Get the kids to bed earlier. People can get down in the pits. It's not 1, 2 in the morning. You know what I mean? So there's a lot more positives too than everybody wants all these car counts too. But hey, the fans want some chance to get down to the pits and see these guys, and they zip through them races. And there's enough stars there. It's a really solid field from front to back. So I got no issues with the car counts. But those high limit guys, they're not going to come over there. They're whining in their own stuff right now, and they don't get their way. They don't get to roll the dice, or I won the night before, I don't have to qualify, or whatever it is. So they're just going to be in their own little world.
Yeah, you know what? That's a very good point, right? I mean, they still had a full feature. Both features were highly entertaining. It was good racing. And I mean, let's face it. Would you rather, right? If you're a listener, punch the buttons below. Would you rather have a lower, a little bit lower car count, but get done in a 2.5 hour window? Or would you rather have a ton of cars and you're there for 5 hours, right? So that's kind of I would rather have a shorter program. So I think you kind of hit the nail on the head.
Well, I think I'm okay with a smaller car count as long as the count is quality drivers. And just as an example, last year I went to the World of Outlaw show at Beaver Dam here in Wisconsin, and I think there was only it was low 20s, I think, for cars. But there weren't a lot of World of Outlaw. They had the regular World of Outlaw drivers and then the local 410 guys, and nothing against the local 410 guys, but I mean, they're not going to compete with the World of Outlaw drivers. So
no, yeah, you're exactly right there. All right, well, let's one more event here. We got this one on the list here just for our boy Brad. NASCAR at Bristol. What comes to mind, Bert?
Tires. That's the first thing. I mean, it was crazy because they were racing, trying to milk the tires along, and then the tires would go away, and they're going really slow. So some would pit, and then they're driving like 5 miles an hour faster than the other drivers after they change their tires. And so you have cars dodging each other because of the difference in tire wear.
Coach, what happened there? Why was the tire deal such an issue? And what was your thoughts overall on the race at Bristol?
Yeah, so I watched Denny Hamlin today. I don't know if he was on his own podcast or if he was on Junior's podcast, because they tested this tire. Now they tested after the fall race last year, and they had put down the QJ1 or whatever when they tested, they put down that traction on the track, and they ran with it and tested it. Well, they brought the same tire back, and Denny Hamlin said they were all a second to a second and a half slower in practice, and they couldn't figure out why. They had no idea why. Why were we second and a half? It's the same tire, it's the same everything, but they put a different substance on the track to try to keep that going. Well, the track didn't rubber up. They thought it was going to take rubber, which was going to help actually save the tires instead of running on basically, like you said, the cheese grater. So there was just an issue there, and they really don't know. But Denny Hamlin and the crew chiefs, everybody loved it. Now, I don't know if you saw a lot of those pictures, Bert, of those tires. They basically, you want to talk about debulminating. That's the only issue I have, is make sure you got to have a safe tire as well. In Bristol, they're a little bit slower. It's not like you're at Daytona or, Michigan, or you blow a tire at Michigan, you go in the wall, you're going to pray to hope that the guy's still alive. So they got to watch that, but everybody loved it. And hey, the guys that had their cars working, like Denny Hamlin, Ty Gibbs drove from the back to the front, I think 34 times. There was over 50 lead changes. It was a super entertaining race. So from that standpoint, it was great, but make sure these tires are safe. But I mean, it was when they were going to shorten the race because they didn't have enough tires left. It was like, oh boy. And those people in the Goodyear garage were mounting tires. Did you see all those clips? They were bringing tires over. It was super entertaining as a fan and as a spectator, and the drivers all liked it. So hopefully they're onto something now. And like I said, the Goodyear's going to be, they'll make sure it's a safe tire too. But it was super fun to watch, and it was super interesting. Like I said, Hamlin and Dale Earnhardt Jr., I was listening to all these guys this week talk about it and how much fun they had. And hey, you had to be smart. You had to maintain your car, maintain the tires. You couldn't drive like a madman, and a lot of drivers had trouble with that.
Yeah, it was entertaining, right? And I only watched maybe the last 100 or so laps, but I did watch some of the replay clips and all that. But when you have over 50 lead changes, a lot of drama, you don't know what's going to happen. Ultimately, that's what you want. You want to have an event where you have no idea what's going to happen until the end. And that's what we had here. And Denny Hamlin winning, how good is he for NASCAR right now, right? I mean, he's literally playing the heel. I mean, he is literally he plays to it. Half the place was booing the shit out of him. You would have thought it was old school Kyle Busch. He's out of the car and he's just pointing, he's playing to the crowd. He's just eating that up. Man, how good is it for NASCAR to have kind of that guy where everybody's cheering against?
Well, we've talked about this a lot on the show. You need a hero and you need a villain, and he's definitely playing the villain role really well. And hopefully that'll translate into. Did you see the aerial shots of Bristol, the stands? I would say that was probably half full. I can remember when you couldn't get a ticket to Bristol, and seeing it only half full was a little disappointing. But that's the way it is. And I want to bring up one other thing. It's funny because last week all the commotion about the suspensions in the dirt world, about doctoring up tires, with chemicals in tires. And here in NASCAR, they put a chemical on the track to try to create more traction. So just kind of different.
Yeah, I wonder if they send those tire samples in and they're like, this chemical is not supposed to be in your rubber. You're all cheating, right? So that would definitely be good. So let's jump into the next segment, fan questions, and let's go ahead and name this segment Fan Questions, brought to you by our friend Nick Hoff, Hard Charger Performance Specialties out in Sydney, Montana. So Nick has been building race engines for over 20 years, right? He's been around dirt track racing for a long, long time. And not only does he build engines, he'll do gears. He does a multitude of other things. I mean, that's why it's Performance Specialties, not just engines, a whole lot more. And he'll build engines for anything from street stocks to late models. I mean, you name it. He built engines for me. He built engines for people in the area like Jeff Provenzino. Both of us went on to win several races with his power underneath the hood. So I can speak from experience on this. Also, if you're over in Western Montana, over in that area, right? I guess North Dakota, the western side, kind of that, I guess, Montana, North Dakota border, right where Sydney is. If you are looking for a dyno, he's the only guy within like hundreds of miles where you can schedule dyno time to try to make your stuff better. And if you're in the western region, a Wissota guy running a crate, he is the guy to go to get your crate engine repaired, because let's face it, it's a crate engine and you're going to need to. So that's Hard Charger Performance Specialties. Nick Hoff, thanks for being a supporter of the show here. So here's a couple questions. So we got one from Dave. He goes, guys, Scott Bloomquist is back. He was at the Hunt the Front race and said he's going to run the whole series. Shouldn't he just retire? The guy got like dead last. Is it time for Scott Bloomquist just to hang it up and call it quits?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't base anything off of one race. I mean, how long has he been off? But I understand where the question comes from, and that's one of the toughest things, is watching a driver who was on top of the game for so long, and watching that driver continue to race even though he's not competitive anymore. And the thing with Bloomquist, though, is I don't think he has anything else. I mean, racing is the only thing that he knows, the only thing that he's ever really done. So, I mean, you and Coach Kraus would be better to answer this than myself, but it's got to be difficult to walk away from something that you've done for so long and you excelled at for so long.
I'll touch on that in a minute here. I do have something on that. Coach Kraus, time for Bloomer to hang it up. Is this, is Dave kind of off base here? Your thoughts?
No, it's not time. The sport, we still need him. But Bert, when you think of Scott Bloomquist right now, you don't think about the greatest of all time. You think about aliens. You know what I mean? And he's doing this on purpose to throw everybody off, because he's struggling. There's no doubt he's struggling. He's the greatest of all time. Okay. It's no different than Tiger Woods right now. The whole world wants to see Tiger Woods at the golf course. Okay. The whole world, late model world, wants to see Scott Bloomquist at the racetrack. So I don't think it's time. I think it's fun when he shows up. It's, we laugh. We have a bingo board about what's Bloomer going to do? What, is his tire going to fall off, or aliens going to abduct him, or what's going on? So I don't think it's time for him yet. Like I said, he's just throwing a smoke stream. But, Ryan will touch on it too. I haven't got to that point yet in my career either. But, my dad did, because, my dad retired a little earlier, and he said he thought he was at the top of his game when he retired, and he didn't want to go down the downhill slope and in your career. And the flip side was, it was time for me to take over anyway, but he had a good excuse. So, different scenarios, but Bloomer's having fun. Like you said, Bert, it's all he has. I think the dirt late model world still needs him.
My boy Chonga's gonna send you hate mail, calling Bloomquist the greatest of all time. We have that argument quite often. He's gonna be like, greatest of all time, that is Billy Moyer. Thank you very much. And so you two hockey people can hash that one out. Turbo actually on the podcast, Bubba actually asked him, he goes, Scott Bloomquist, would he be a good fit? And he's like, no, he's done. He's too old and out of shape. And he asked him, is he ever going to win another big race? He goes, no, I don't think so. He goes, maybe if it's an 8-lap race, but he can't make it that long. So Turbo kind of throwing some shots there at old Scott Bloomquist on that podcast, kind of interesting. But one thing with Bloomer, if he goes on and does win a race, right, that's going to be like the ultimate heel to hero deal, because you want to talk about a guy that got booed all the time. That was him. But when he does go out and win a race, and he will, I believe, win something. Might not be a World 100, right? But he's going to win something at some point here. I think the crowd's going to go kind of bonkers, right? Because it's been so long where people kind of forgot how bad they hated him 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on to that, I mean, from a fan's perspective, I always loved going to big race. Well, like the World 100, I would go every year, and I loved watching Scott Bloomquist race. But I didn't want him to win the race because he wins so often. But if this year, if I'm at the World 100 and Bloomquist would win the World 100, I mean, yeah, I'd be cheering him. That's the entire crowd would go crazy if that would happen.
Yeah, him being relevant in racing is good for racing. So I will say this, and you guys both alluded to it. I don't know that he has anything else. Guys, I personally have been struggling like crazy since I quit racing. Like crazy. And I was never on the level of Scott Bloomquist, right? I took it seriously, raced regionally, but that's what I did. Every single day I'm in the shop preparing to race, like everything was racing. My identity is 71A. That's my identity. Everybody I know knows me as 71A. I kind of go through that moment of like, I don't know what the hell to do. I mean, you make money. What are you going to do with it? I don't even know how to live what I would call a normal type of life after racing 80, 90, 100 shows a year. So I don't know how anybody can do that. So Larry, which is Coach's dad, well, he had Jeff to kind of, hey, I got my kid racing. I'm going to work on his car. I'm going to go with him. He's still heavily involved. He helps him out a bunch. Bloomquist don't have that, right? Bloomquist doesn't have a kid that he's going to go help. I don't have a kid that I'm going to go help race. So I grabbed a hold of Dave Dulciak. I like helping him and Brian, but it's not the same. It's not the same as, being all in every single day. And athletic depression is a real deal, right? I mean, I worry about some of these drivers that were massively obsessed and then they kind of quit. And it's like, what next? Scott Bloomquist has a very addictive personality. I'm not sure if you guys realize that, right? Gambling, the drugs and alcohol, the women, the racing. I mean, he is massively addicted. And I think he lives his life, whatever he locks onto, he's got that. So you look at these people, Kelly Esty just retired up in the Northland. And he was all in. I mean, he raced 3 nights a week forever. I mean, everything that he's done has been about racing. His identity is the 37. I mean, one of the best ever up in the Northland. And now he's passionate. He's helping his kid. Maybe that'll kind of, maybe that'll fill the void. I don't really know. But I've struggled with that. Like I've had like literally days where it's like, why do I even get out of bed? I ain't got nothing to do. What am I going to do? Go to work, come home, watch TV? So a guy kind of worries about that. So let's let old Scott Bloomquist hang on just a little bit longer.
I do have one thing though that's just popped into my mind with after you mentioned some of this stuff. Yeah, he doesn't have a kid to take over. But there is a young racer who's looking for a ride right now. Maybe. I
don't think he's got any money, though. So I don't. Yeah. So if he actually had money, he could maybe bring over Huddy or whatever. But I don't know how that would work out. He did kind of help Garrett Smith. But yeah, I guess time will tell. So another question here from Steph. And she said, the email or the Facebook comments here this past week literally make me embarrassed to be a racing fan. Are people like completely psycho? What's up with all this craziness towards Hudson O'Neal, Moran, Pierce, and all that? Your guys' thoughts on this Facebook stuff?
Well, my take is social media has created a look at me society. everybody thinks because they can post on Facebook, everybody thinks they're an expert or they know what's going on in the situation. So, they post on Facebook and, they can, but then again, they can hide behind the keyboard, they're not actually saying it, to somebody's face or anything. They're just, punching keys. And, I made a comment once that, on Facebook, I made a comment once that the world would be a better place without social media. And somebody replied back, but isn't that your job? And I said, no, my job is communications. There's other ways to communicate other than social media.
Yeah, that is true. Coach Cross, here's a question in regards to that. Is Nick Hoffman got a target on his back next time he sees Bobby Pierce's mom, Angie Pierce?
Yeah, I think so. That was good. I didn't, like I said, I called you right away. I'm like, wait a minute here. What went down with this post? And you sent it to me. I didn't see it. So Nick Hoffman got his 2 cents in towards that deal to tell moms and girlfriends to stay off Facebook and things like that. I know, Ryan, like I said, I know your mom would never do that. Mine would never do that. And they never got involved in racing. So I people just think they're relevant, Bert, I think when they post on Facebook, but you can look at it both ways too and kind of, yeah, they go crazy, but people are passionate about the sport. You know what I mean? So there's some positives of that too. And, some of the big time negative and, ripping on someone's character and stuff like that can be a little bit tough, but it's passionate. You click on, you see all the likes and you see all the posts and stuff like that. It's just people are passionate about it. So I think that can be a good thing too. So a little side note with Ryan's racing career too. I'm going to blame WISSOTA, Ryan. Because they got rid of the Race of Champions pretty much because of you. So we're going to blame the Race of Champions because you got to race in that because you were a past champion and I always had 2 cars. And Ryan always got to race usually once a year because he'd run the other 29 car in the Race of Champions. Now Ryan can't even do that, Bert. So that's where his big depression comes into play.
Well, and maybe this explains some of what I'm seeing on the One to Go Show Facebook page because you're sharing the different car number pictures of the different car numbers, but in like most of the pictures I see a 71A in the picture, and we're only in car number 9 or 10.
Yeah, it's crazy because my whole collection, I got like all my stuff in one area. And all the old stuff in another area. And I'm like, there's a lot of people I raced against that maybe have 8, 9, 10 or whatever. So I'm like, so I started looking through them. I'm like, well, I don't really want to crop it and make it weird. So so there was a lot of 71A pictures in there, but that did bring back some good memories for sure. Yeah, for those wondering, so Nick Hoffman deleted it off Facebook. Angie Pierce, you don't mess with Mama Bear, right? And I have a Mama Bear too, but they stand pat that hey, we didn't cheat, and they feel like they've been slighted. I don't know, right? I guess the ruling came back that they're illegal. It is what it is, but she's pissed, right? She's pissed, and she's all over social media, like literally calling. She went as far as like saying maybe people should cancel Dirt Vision. I mean, she's like full on, right? And Nick Hoffman had a post on there that said, if my mom ever posted anything about whether sticking up for me or saying I'm a dumbass, I would be super mad, right? I would be mad. And she called him out, so they kind of went back and he ended up deleting that probably after she reached out to him, is what I'm guessing, because I don't think she was happy. But Kraus, I don't know about you, but my mom, right? If my mom was heavily involved with social media, she might have been that person, right? Because I remember coming back home from a race and several times, right? Because I was aggressive, started 6th row most of the time, and all of a sudden maybe I'd get into the back of somebody, turn them around, I get put to the back. And you know what you do, if you did it or not, right? And I'd get home and my dad, right, I'd get in the shop and he'd be like, well, what the hell do you expect? You're driving like a jackass out there. You got to watch what are you doing, right? And he'd be all over me, right? Like he goes, well, I hope you're happy. That cost you a win. Probably would have won that one. And he was the Mark Richards of the bunch, right? Kind of hammering down. And Mom would come out and she'd be like, You shut up, you son of a bitch. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. He got screwed. That person chopped him. It wasn't his fault. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, Mom, I got into him. Yeah, but you wouldn't. That was his own fault. Like, she had my back. I could do anything, right? And my mom was 100% not his fault. Not his fault. I will divorce you if you keep saying it was his fault. Not his fault. Was it like that in the Kraus camp?
No, it was, we'd pull in from home. My mom she'd still be up. She always waited for us. And her first thing is, are you guys okay? Is everybody safe? Nothing went wrong. Nothing broke down. You guys are all okay. That was her first thing, just to watching over the family. But you have to have someone like that too, as well, looking over you and, hey, you guys hungry? You need something? You know what I mean? So that was kind of her cup of tea. And she always obviously watched. She was with my dad for all those years too. But yeah, that was kind of her personality. And my dad was never really like that because he my dad, he's kind of laid back and, hey, if we won, we won. If we didn't, we didn't. And he's whether he had work to do or not. What kind of fabricator he is. Sometimes he kind of likes that stuff. So I always gave him hard times. Hey, maybe I was doing it on purpose to give you something to do. But no, that's kind of how that family went. And had my same pit crew. Had pit crew for a lot of the same years. So it's crazy, the different crews and different personalities, and you find the right guys. Like you had the same guy for a while, and Blair's been with me since like 1997. He spotted for you, Ryan. So it's cool to see and hear all the stories about pit crews and families and how passionate they are. And the Pierces they're a family run deal. That's just the way they are. They always been family. It's Hudson O'Neill's driving for Rocket One. No, that's a completely different operation. So it's fun to see all the different operations and how everybody functions.
For sure. And it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening here in the next couple of weeks. And one last question here. This is kind of a cool one. We got one here from Mark Stahl out in Pennsylvania. Lives actually 15 miles from Hagerstown out there. And he said, love hearing about racing in your area. Never been over to our area. So going to invite him over. You come over to any of our tracks, let us know. We'll make sure we find a way to get you some tickets, get you in, make the trip on over. But he goes, at our track over here in Hagerstown, they had, late models, limited late models, and road runners, which are street stocks. So 3 different classes. He goes, I look at, I listen to your show. I look at what you guys have going on in your area, and there's so many classes. And a lot of them look exactly the same. And I have no idea how to differentiate any of them. And it's like, Mark, we can relate. There's way too many classes that look the same. And he asked, and Kraus, I'll maybe let you take it. I'll kind of chime in a little bit too, or Bert, you can. But he goes, so there's 2 different groupings here, right? Super stocks, street stocks, pure stocks, hobby stocks, stock cars. In as simple as we can, what's the difference between these? Kraus, do you want to take that, or do you want me to take that? How do you want to roll with this?
Boy, it's makes a guy think, but I think the main word is stock. Super stocks, stock front suspension, stock front stub. Same thing with a street stock. And yeah, like you said, you got street stocks, you got pure stocks, you got IMCA stock cars. Basically, they all look the same. Super stocks are kind of our own thing that kind of had started around in this area. Back in the 90s, someone, hey, well, let's build something. I think it was, hey, not everybody wants to run a late model. What can we do a little bit cheaper, a little bit more affordable? So a super stock. So I think the main word there is stock. Some stock components, spindles, front stub. I think that's the main thing. So stuff like that. So yeah, it's interesting questions. But like you said, you pull up and you see 10 classes, and they got Thunder stocks, and they got Sportsmans, and they got this stock and that stock. And like you said, yeah, the classes are way too many. And this guy's probably confused when you start looking at other areas, all the cars that we have.
Yeah, and I think I'll separate it this way, right? So we got, within that grouping, you have super stocks that stands alone. You have like a stock car, IMCA stock car, and a Wissota street stock would be pretty darn similar. And then you have the pure stock and the hobby stock. The super stock, the only part of the frame that is stock on a super stock is from the right behind the lower A-frames forward. Everything else is tubular framed with a 3-link suspension in it. engines are fairly similar to a super stock, a little different, but fairly similar. But it's a 3-link suspension, tubular back half of the car. That's a super stock. The street stock and the IMCA stock car, that's a full frame. That's a full frame car, G body, like a Monte Carlo, Cutlass, that type of car, most of them. And the difference, a street stock is a WISSOTA deal. They got a little bit different engine rules, and they have to run their trailing arms in the back have to be stock location. That's why you don't see them rocking all around. An IMCA stock car, very close to a street stock, but they're able to do a little bit more with the rear suspension to get movement in them. And then the pure stock and the hobby stock, those would be the lowest end, kind of more the entry level. I know in WISSOTA, the pure stocks run a 305. Streets and supers run a 350, the 355s. The pure stocks, I don't know about hobby stocks, IMCA, but they run 305s in the pures. So significantly less engine, no racing springs, no racing shocks. I mean, there's way more of a stock type deal. So pures and hobbies, the same, very close. Streets and stock cars in the same ballpark. Super stocks a little different. Now you get into the modifieds, and you got A mods, B mods, Midwest mods, X mods, sport mods, econo mods, mod 4s. Kraus, you want me to take that, or do you want to differentiate them for them?
No, I think you can take that one. And well, the econo mod you kind of mentioned, but now you got to. Are they calling it a C modified in Mississippi Thunder or econo mod? I think they're calling it.
I think it's an econo mod. It might be a C mod. I'm not sure. But okay, we'll start with the easiest one. That's mod 4. Those are way smaller cars, right? They're very, very small, and they got 4 cylinders in them. That's why the mod 4. So that's a 4-cylinder modified. That's way smaller, completely different than the rest. When you get into econo mods, I'll take that last, but you got sport mods, Midwest mods, B mods, X mods. Those would be like a limited modifieds. For the most part, they're running they're kind of all running a 355, but a lot less limitation. I think they have a 9.5 to 1 compression rule on it, so they got a lot less compression. It's just a lot more going down. What would you say them are, Kraus? Maybe 400 horse, roughly 375 to 400. And unless you got Shane Howells, right there, Shane, that's probably 450, somewhere in that neighborhood. But right around 375 to 400 horsepower. And I think all of them have a 3-link suspension in the back now. You can do a couple different things, but it's basically a 3-link suspension with a limited engine. When you get into A mods, right, your WISSOTA mods, USRA, USMTS, UMP, well, there's a lot more power there. They're around the 600, give or take, right around 600 horse. A lot of them run on methanol, some of them run on gas. 4-link suspensions in the back of those. So that is your top end of the totem pole. Then Mississippi Thunder, and I think Decorah brought in the econo mod, which is essentially a B mod. That's that whole grouping of cars, but they have some more specific rules in there to really try to make sure you're running older stuff and bringing the cost down, making that more of an entry level. So I hope that helps. You're right. I mean, it is absolutely mind-boggling that there's so many classes. It's ridiculous. They look the same. He goes, don't need a lot of detail, but hopefully that differentiates it a little bit for you. Anyway, thanks, guys, for all you do. Keep up the great work, and I thoroughly enjoy each episode and maintain your honesty on the show. So, Mark, thanks a lot for reaching out. We certainly appreciate our fans out in Pennsylvania. So, guys, 2024 Pick'ems, Kraus, brought to you by our new sponsor and editor of the show.
Yes, elevate-visual.com video productions. Make sure if you need any video production work done, any drone work, if you're a realtor, you need Brandon to get his drone out there and fly over your land and make a little video. Make sure you get on elevate-visual.com. He also has a Facebook page and does it's your premier video production. So make sure you get a hold of Brandon.
Yeah, he does a great job. Thanks a lot, Brandon, for all you do. So this past week, Curtis, Dan, the 71A, and Coach, we all had +3. Changa and Mike +2. Kent and Brad +1. New Dan, good Jeff, and the two-time champ Bert with a goose egg here this past weekend. Always good seeing Bert Lehman with a 0. Love it, love it. And Curtis right now leading the way. He's at 65. Brad at 59. Changa at 56. I'm at 51, 1 point ahead of Coach Kraus. We got Dan at 48. Bert at 45, 1 point ahead of Kent at 44. Good Jeff at 38. New Dan at 35. And Mike at 25. Mike, buddy, you got some work to do. You're only 10 behind New Dan there, so I think maybe you can catch him. Let's see if old Mike can catch New Dan. So I'll look ahead to this week's events, guys. Brought to you by our friends over at Daytona One Performance Lubricants. So they have a lot of products. Check them out online. Check them out on Facebook. They got a lot of different stuff, including this product right here. Okay. So they have gear oil. Not only gear oil, but the fastest gear lube in the world. So this blend right here, they have a 30-60 blend. They have a 75-90 blend. And Coach Kraus, you've changed a few gears in your day, and you know how some of that stuff's pretty darn sticky. And this stuff here, less friction. It's going to give you at the rear wheels an increase in horsepower on a chassis dyno. Longevity, you're looking for less heat in those gears. Check out this product and many, many more online, Daytona One Performance Lubricants. And if you want more information about all the great products they have to offer, give Chad a call. He's the area rep, 507-828-3536, Daytona One Performance Lubricants. So this weekend, guys, the World of Outlaw late models, they canceled. Track not ready to go. Thunderhill doing some improvements. Didn't quite get it done. They're going to push that back here a couple weeks. But the World of Outlaw sprint cars with a couple shows back in Texas again. Friday, the Blue Bonnet Showdown at the Big O Speedway in Enos, Texas. Saturday, they go to Kennedale. Lucas Oil Dirt late models. Friday, the Buckeye Spring 50 at Atomic. And Saturday, the Indiana Icebreaker at Brownstown. Guys, what of these shows are you looking forward to the most?
Well, I'm looking forward to the Lucas shows because you got to see what T-Mac does in the Rocket House car.
Coach Kraus?
Yep, Bert said it. That's where all the news has been. I would assume I would assume Pierce is going to be there. Correct? Has he come out and said he's running there?
I looked at his website. I messaged him. I haven't heard anything. So maybe, not sure.
Yeah, be interesting to see what happens there. Like I said, it's time to settle down and get racing with those guys. Been so much off the track stuff. So I think that's a big thing right now. Everybody just wants to see those late models get back in action.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to Brownstown because that's Huddy's stomping grounds, right? That's kind of his home turf. So it'll be interesting to A, what car is he driving? And B, can he outperform T-Mac? So let's jump into our final segment here, the 3 bold predictions that we make each and every week. Brought to you by our friends over at Dirt Track Supply, Watertown, South Dakota, home of the Aero Chassis. Ron and Trevor Anderson, they've done a great job with racing on and off the track. Great ambassadors to the sport. They do everything, right? They fabricate cars. If you bring a car in, need work on it, they can do that. They sell parts, tires, and they've been doing it for a long time. So that's Dirt Track Supply in Watertown. So we'll start with our accountability session. And guys, I got to be completely honest with you. We got our asses kicked. I mean, literally the single worst showing by our group collectively in 3 bold prediction history. This is ridiculous. Like, we have 0 correct. What the hell? We're supposed to know what the hell we're talking about. Like, donkey award to all of us for not getting anything right all freaking weekend. What the hell are we doing? So, Bert, you said Josh Rice was going to win at Florence. Buddy, those days are long gone. Those days, RTJ comes in, it's his house now. It's his house now. So that did not happen. You said Tanner English would win one at Talladega. That did not happen. And you said Carson Macedo would win one at Texas. And guess what?
Close.
He should have. He was close. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, but just kind of ran out of gas there at the end and slipped back. Almost got third, but he got second. So good, Jeff here. He said the World of Outlaws would sweep the podium at Cotton Bowl. Well, there's this guy named Brent Marks who decided to come mess that up with a first and a second. Tanner English was going to leave the Hunt the Front weekend at Talladega with the point lead. That did not happen. That's Brandon Overton. And he said that the show Kyle Busch was going to win at Bristol. Well, Kyle Busch 2.0 won at Bristol, right? Kind of the new heel of the bunch, Denny Hamlin, but still doesn't quite count. So the Peanut Gallery, Kenny, he said Donnie Schatz was going to win Friday and Logan Schuchart on Saturday. That did not happen. And I'll go to me next. I said the Reaper, Ryan Gustin, was going to get a win this weekend. He did. I don't think he even showed up, so that didn't work. RTJ was going to win, and Macedo would have the best average finish. Well, RTJ won, so 1 out of 3 ain't bad, but it does not get me a correct point. Coach Kraus, you had 3 come off the board as well. You said Joseph Joyner with a pair of podiums. He was not on the podium the night. They ran one night, so it didn't. And you said Donnie Schatz would have at least 1 win, and the other one would be a podium. He did have a podium, but he did not have a win to go along with it. And then we had the one that was a little bit of controversy here. You said RTJ would sweep the entire night at the Spring 50 at Florence. You said that, and in order to sweep the night, that's overall fast time, that is winning the heat, that is winning the feature. Guess what? He won the heat, he won the feature, and he got second officially. Officially got scored as second. Now, here's the deal. Bert, did you happen to see the results for the time trials at Florence?
I did not.
Him and Hensley had exactly the same time. But the tiebreaker is a wrestling match or something in the back, and obviously RTJ can't take Hensley, so they gave it to Hensley and gave him overall fast time award winner. RTJ was awarded number 2. Coach, is that one of the worst beats in all of bad beats there?
Straight BS is what it is. But I will give them props for not having a tie. They didn't pull the Bud Selig at the All-Star game a few years back, Bert, when they ended it in a tie. So I will give props for that. But that is BS. I should get at least a half a point.
I saw that. I'm like, oh, man, that is – yeah, Jeff pointed that out. He's like, Kraus ain't going to like that very much. But we can't give him the point because they awarded fast time to the other guy. So that's a bad beat. When it's separated by literally they tied and they had to go to the tiebreaker, that is a bad beat right there. So as far as we keep track of what, how many correct ones we get and the scoring percentage here, Bert, you're leading the way still as far as correct picks. You have 8. Me and Coach both have 6. Good Jeff has 5, and the Peanut Gallery have 3. As far as correct percentage goes, I'm leading the way now with a 28.6. A big reason why is I pushed a lot of my stuff out. I don't have a lot of predictions that come off the board right away. And right now in second is the Peanut Gallery, then Bert, Coach Kraus, and Good Jeff. But it's tight. We're very, very, very close right there. So we'll make 3 laps around the track here. We're each going to make a group of 3 predictions, racing related, something that either did or did not happen. And we'll go Bert, Coach Kraus, Good Jeff, and then Curtis on board for the Peanut Gallery. And then I have my own picks as well. So, Bert, what is your first prediction?
All right. T-Mac straps into the Rocket One house car and gets at least 1 feature win this weekend.
Okay, that's pretty bold. That's Coach Bert Lehman with a fairly bold prediction. You're muted.
It's fairly bold because I knew he was going to do something with that, but mine's bolder. Okay.
All right.
So I'm chopping you. I'm going T-Mac. He's winning his first race in the car. So that first night, Friday night, T-Mac's winning. That's all bold I'm going, Bert. Not this, he's going to get 1 win. No, I'm going bold. First night in the car, T-Mac's winning.
I'm going to help you out. First race. Now, are you talking first race? First race technically going to be a heat race.
First off, we don't talk about heats or qualifying, Ryan. First race means feature, where the money's at on the line, not you. Just because you won the most heat races in Minnesota history, okay? Which whoop-de-doo, good for you, okay? Because you had your own matchbooks and your own ping pong balls in your pocket, and oh, look at there, I got number one. Here comes Aho. So no, it's first feature race, dude.
Hey, just to point this out, I don't know if this is still a sore subject or not, but we kind of did talk about qualifying because it kind of pimped you out of a point. I'm just saying. So, good Jeff here. So he's got a T-Mac prediction as well. T-Mac currently, I believe, 9th right now in Lucas Oil points. He's going to claw his way in to the Final Four in the Lucas Oil standings and get into the chase. All right, Curtis has one here. He's got a T-Mac 1 as well. And Huddy, incidentally. Hudson O'Neal will have a better average finish than T-Mac this weekend at Atomic in Brownstown. So Huddy with a better average finish than T-Mac. And then I'm going to make a Huddy prediction here. And I could be dead wrong on this one, but remember, RTJ and Huddy both live in Martinsville, Indiana, SSI Motorsports. There's going to be an announcement here in the coming weeks that Hudson O'Neal and RTJ are going to be teammates at SSI Motorsports. Bert.
I'm going to stay with Huddy, and I will say Huddy still makes the Final Four in the Lucas point standings and will qualify for the run for the championship.
Huddy in the Final Four. Coach Kraus.
Yeah, we're going to go to the World Outlaw Sprint Cars. And since they've had so much parity this year, we're going to go 6 different drivers are going to be on the podium this week in the 2 features. So first night, there's going to be 3. And then the second, it's going to be completely different drivers. So 6 different drivers on the podium this weekend.
Wow. There is nobody that can actually say, Coach Kraus lays down bunts all the time. You're bold. There ain't no doubt about it. You're bold. All right. Good Jeff going to go to the World of Outlaws as well. Not quite as bold as yours. Donnie Schatz going to find victory lane this weekend, at least one night this weekend in the World of Outlaws. So Donnie Schatz going to get a win. Curtis going to go late models here, but he's going to go hunt the front late model series. Right now they got a pretty darn good number of cars following that series. I don't remember the exact number, but into the 20s. 14 or more cars will complete all of the Hunt the Front shows in 2024. So 14 or more cars going to complete every Hunt the Front late model race. Do you guys go over or under on that? Do you think he's spot on, or do you think it's going to be more or less? Bert?
I'll go over.
You going to go over, Coach?
Yeah, I'm going to go under. I haven't really looked at their schedule. 14 kind of seems to be a lot. You know, Lucas and the World All Odds are going to probably be right around that area as well. So I know he's getting some good following, and guys are kind of picking and choosing, but I'm going to go under.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take under. 14's a bunch, but you know they're all fairly regional there, so it's possible. I'm going to go late models here as well, and I'm going to go rocket chassis in general. So I think we all know that Hudson O'Neal was the rocket, right? I mean, he was obviously driving Rocket 1. Well, if you were going to look at win counts for rockets, he was going to have the lion's share of them in 2024, as he did in 2023. With him vacating that ride and T-Mac getting behind the wheel of Rocket 1, Rocket chassis as a whole, okay, not just Rocket 1, all of Rocket chassis from this point forward is going to have less than 10 total wins combined between the World of Outlaw Late Model Series, Lucas Oil Late Model Series, and the Castro Flow Racing Night in America Series. So 10 wins or less for Rocket chassis. It is going to be straight up domination by Longhorn. So Rocket It's going to be a tough deal. I just don't think T-Mac's going to win some races, but I don't think it's going to be enough to get them over 10 for the year. Bert, your third and final prediction.
That leads me to my final one, which is back to T-Mac. It would, you kind of led into this for me. T-Mac will get at least 6 feature wins in the Rocket House car.
Okay, T-Mac at least 6 wins and Rocket 1. Okay, Coach Kraus.
We're going to World Outlaw Sprint Cars. And Hot Sauce, he's going to Frozen Sauce this weekend. He is going to go from first to third in the points this weekend. He's going to be part of this Midwest snowstorm coming through. So Hot Sauce to Frozen Sauce, he's going from first to third after the 2 races.
All right, he's going to turn into ice cream. All right, fair enough. So Good Jeff, he's going to go late model racing. I said that RTJ is red hot right now, right? His speed weeks are done, but he said opposite. RTJ will not be on the podium this weekend in either one of the Lucas Oil Dirt Late Model Series races. So Curtis, he's going to go World of Outlaws. Now, I'm going to move this for him, right? So Thunder Hill was supposed to run this weekend. They rescheduled that event for a couple weeks from now. When they do subside and have that event, Brandon Shepard will win both World of Outlaw late model races at Thunder Hill. B-Shep in Victory Lane going to double up at Thunder Hill. My third and final one. Well, I'm going to go Scott Bloomquist here. I'm not going to say Scott Bloomquist is going to win 10. Okay, that I'm not Kenny. I'm not Kenny. And not doing that. Scott Bloomquist will win at least 2 Hunt the Front Series races in 2024. So the Voodoo Child, Black Sunshine, and people are like, "Oh, he's cherry picking." His day's done. He's not these young guys, right? It's still some pretty good cars out there, but he's going to win at least 2 A mains in the Hunt the Front Series in 2024. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Crash, my boy Crash at Helverlines here. Birthday boy today, so happy birthday to Crash. I think he's either 84 or 85 years young. I'll be calling him when I get rolling here to wish him a happy birthday. And check out Provenzino Race Cars on Facebook. Last couple of years, he did a pretty darn cool tribute body for Bob Girardi up at the Labor Day Shootout. He actually has a tribute body for Tommy Wasilewski for the Tommy Wasilewski Memorial as well. So kind of cool. You don't see a lot of that. Bert, you do. They do a lot of that stuff in Shawano, which is super cool. But Kraus, do they do any throwback bodies, nostalgia type stuff at the Viking Speedway? There's an idea for you as a board member. I think it's really cool when they do that.
Yeah, no, that is a good idea. We've had a couple guys do it during Hall of Fame night because, we do our annual Hall of Fame night. I know not technically going throwback, but some paint schemes. I don't know if you saw Trevor Sauer's car this year. He had a throwback to John Steppen's car. So there has been some stuff like that. I've thought about doing that with my dad too. So that is a cool idea. You can maybe, do a throwback, maybe have a contest one night too and have the fans vote or who's got the coolest car. That got me thinking now, or I think we're going to have to do something like that.
Absolutely. Bert, pretty common over there out of all the different years, and they've had a bunch. Is there one that stuck out to you as your favorite throwback kind of tribute type car?
Well, obviously for me, it was the year that MJ was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he had on the right side of his car the first paint scheme that he had. I don't know if you can see it. This one right here, because he was A98. So that actually kind of started it all at Shawano. Then in years after that, drivers that were inducted into the Hall of Fame, other drivers would, put their side panels on and that sort of thing.
Kind of a trendsetter. Why don't you post that or send that over to me? I'll post it on the page, a picture of that one you're talking about. Kind of cool to see. So shout out to him as well. So that's episode, 216, I guess, in the books. stay tuned. A lot of action. Hope everybody's enjoying the old nostalgia pictures that I'm throwing up on Facebook. Bert, Coach Kraus, get your pictures together, because once I go through, it's going to be a little while to get through 100. We should get your guys' photos up there as well. Kind of keep that deal rolling. So thanks for tuning in to the One to Go show. As always, I'm Ryan. That is Bert. That is Coach Kraus. See you guys all next week.